the Solo Coach Podcast.
Russell, welcome to the Solo Coach Podcast.
Hello, David. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it. But first things first, we've just been talking offline. I think I have to say hello to Lynn, don't I?
You
It's like,
absolutely do.
yes, I absolutely say hello, Lynn. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. And actually, maybe Monday, maybe we should meet, essentially. And if you want to expand upon that, David, you can.
Thank you very much. My number one listener is not my only listener, thankfully, but my number one listener is my mum, Lynn, and she's a huge fan of yourself, Russell. Having never met you or spoken with you, but having heard about all the conversations we've had. So this episode is dedicated to my mum.
Oh, that's cool, isn't it? All
Yeah,
right. I like that.
absolutely. She needs to get her hand in her pocket and sponsor it. Right. Right, so today it is welcome listeners, by the way. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening, whatever platform. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm sure this one's going to be of value to you. So today it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Russell, my resilience coach, to the Solo Coach Podcast. Russell and I have been working together for over 5 years, and during that time, we've had countless transformational conversations about life, careers, relationships, and business. We've worked through an unbelievable amount of challenges and setbacks, obstacles, opportunities, and had countless moments of insight on my journey to becoming the solo coach. Russell has been my number one supporter, greatest advocate, and also my accountability partner and coach, I should say, throughout this whirlwind journey. There are almost no words I can use to describe the value of the work that we've done together since we first met and the difference that it's made to me in my life. So, Russell, with no further ado, I'd like to start by asking you, can you tell us more about what it is that you do as the resilience coach?
That's one of the greatest introductions ever, David. Yeah, thank you from the bottom of my heart, essentially. So I will answer the question, but well, I think some of the answer is in what you've just said. It's like, this is how you've impacted me, Russell. That's most definitely some of what I do. And just to continue the reciprocity of the feedback, it's been an absolute pleasure to support you along the way. Just the very first time we had a conversation in a bar because you used to work with my wife, and I just all those many years ago saw this enthusiastic, who is still here, individual to go, Russell, I love this like human thing. I want to do more of this human thing. And that just spoke to me. So it's been a pleasure and an honor to get you to this point and beyond. So yeah, thank you for that. So, the resilience coach, yes, what do I do? Yeah, I support individuals to get clarity, to find themselves, find their purpose, have their light bulb moments, to role model resilience of springing forward with learning, which I know that you have really taken up on board. I suppose I want to be a role model. I want to be a resilience role model, essentially. Still, ironically, playing around with exactly what does that mean to me, but it is me absolutely sharing in ways that I can about the experiences that I have and the reflections I have and the things that I do. Yeah, about a whole career of learning and development. I love supporting human beings, and at the minute, really, really trying to hone the message of, resilient people equals resilient organizations. Discuss, question mark, agree, disagree. Can we talk about this? Can we actually shift the way in which we talk about this resilience word into a more useful, helpful, thought-provoking, thriving word? Essentially, that's who I am and what I'm about right now at this moment in time.
Thanks, Russell. And so I'm sure everyone listening has no doubt their own definition of resilience. I have one as well, but I'd love to know, I'm sure everyone listening would also love to know, what do you mean when you talk about resilience?
Yeah, so I've already mentioned it there. So absolutely, definitely want people to please remember this: springing forward with learning is how I define resilience. So I'm not a fan of the term bounce back. just because I think there's a risk that when we face into life's events, whether good or not so good, challenging, in for a variety of ways, we often what we often think we're role modeling around resilience is like I've faced into that, and now I'll bounce back. I'll go back to how I was before I had to face into this thing, and I am of the opinion about what have you learnt. What are you going to take with you from this experience? What are you going to take with you on this journey? How are you going to use all of life's experiences to build and grow and develop your resilience, which is about understanding the nuance between surviving, coping, and thriving, and the fact that actually the resilient individual gets into this thriving space more often. So, quickly and simplistically, surviving's hanging on by your fingernails. Okay. Coping is on some spectrum of when you ask people, how are you? They'll go, I'm okay. I'm fine. Most people do. But sometimes people are like, I'm okay, but I think I'm about to tip into surviving because I'm not really okay. Or, do you know what? I think I'm quite okay. And I think I'm going to tip into thriving. And the thriving measure of that is even if there's an awful lot of challenges going on in life, you can genuinely state, but I'm in a good place. I'm really good. I know how I'm going to face into this. I understand the challenge that I've got, and I understand the resilience that I need, and the skills and the capabilities and the attitude and the mindset to feel hope and feel optimism in this space. That's thriving. So trying to get people to shift away from the fact that they solely believe that the resilience word is about just getting through. Occasionally we need to do that, but it's more about the resilient individual more often than not, even with a lot of things going on, is in this thriving space. And we do that by springing forward with learning, pausing, reflecting, and asking 3 questions of ourselves. What have I been doing behaviorally recently that's serving me well? What have I been doing behaviorally recently that's not been serving me well? And how do I do more of the answers to the first question? Essentially. And if you can do that as a habit and do your reflections against the resilience wheel, then that's where you'll build and grow your resilience and face into life in a very different way.
Thank you, Russell. I particularly like there. I want to pick up on what you said about role modeling. If we can draw on that a little more. I know in coaching courses and coaching training, I've been through quite a lot myself. We
Yeah.
talk a lot about the right behaviors and actions and tools and techniques as a coach that you can use with your client to facilitate transformation. But we speak less, or sometimes not at all, about the importance of role modeling. And that got me thinking, are you someone who's always been a master of resilience, a resilient person, or is it something that you've grappled with and had to build over time?
Yeah, no, I don't think I have ever been a master. I'm not sure if I ever will be a master. It's interesting, very nicely. Um, I've got a new client in a minute, and they are introducing all of these online sessions doing, and every introduction is like, we have got ourselves a resilience expert in. And every single time that's said, there's a part of me goes, am I? Not sure.
Who's that
Okay.
then?
Yes, yeah, almost like 15, 16 years talking about this resilience word, but what makes you an expert? No, absolutely not. I part of trying to be a role model is sharing actually sometimes all of this information and experience and ideas and behaviors and habits that I've got around what does it mean to be resilient. I am trying to role model these 3 questions about Russell. What have you been doing well recently? That's been serving you well in relation to resilience, and what have you, not been doing? And I'm on a permanent, weekly, daily reflections around that. And sometimes I spectacularly fail. I absolutely fail, and sometimes I do all right. So it is. I don't know where I'm coming from this one. So a little bit more about this, but my lovely, gorgeous wife has been extremely unwell in the last couple of years. And there was one time that she was in hospital, and I could have just, and in between visiting hours, I could have gone home and just sat around, in my mind, waiting for the next visiting hours. But I had booked in my diary to drive somewhere a considerable distance and deliver a session, as a facilitator around, coaching skills and a bit of resilience. But that is playing to my strengths. That energizes me. It puts me in a good place. It makes me feel good about myself. So I chose to go do that, in essentially drive a distance, come back. But that meant that when I then went to visit my wife in hospital, I'd had an enjoyable experience. And you know, and so if I don't, that's an example. In that moment, with all of these things going on in life, I was thriving. Yes, it was really difficult and challenging, upsetting that the person that you love's in a difficult place. However, I was good. I was thriving. I could be at my best. I could be the best version of myself to support my client and to support my wife in that moment in time. So that's an example of when I do and don't do things well.
Thank you, Russell. No, and thank you for sharing that story about your wife. It's been something that I've brought to our sessions recently as well, as we talk about all areas of life, the beauty of our conversations. Nothing has to be excluded or included. But you know, I've gone through a similar thing with a poorly relative at the start of this year. I shouldn't say a similar thing, a different thing, but I will say it's been a very challenging, difficult time for our whole family. It's been extremely difficult for me, and being able to speak to you about that has been magical and has you know softened the blow. And also, we spoke a lot about you know what's within our control and our gift, what's out of it, and then the strongest thing that comes to mind as I speak about this is our conversations about acceptance with good grace
Yeah.
and accepting that it is the way it is. And then the good grace piece for me, I take that to mean doing the best we can that's within our gift and accepting the things that we can't change.
Yeah.
And
It really is. No, I'm glad you said that because that's sort of exactly what I was going to bring up, which is, you know, in sometimes in the resilient space, you know, I get the privilege to sort of say, you know, a resilient person does this, a resilient person role models this, or a resilient person behaves in this particular way, you know, and it's a sentence, it's words. And it's like, okay, so how are we going to bring that to life for you? You know, and that acceptance of a good grace thing. And very similarly, one of the many things that resilient people do is that they cognitively, emotionally understand that really unpleasant things happen to really nice people. You know, they understand that, they get it, you know. Um, and I think that is, you know, the acceptance with good grace is, for me personally, over the last couple of years, I think that's probably one that I keep coming back to for myself personally to go, right, okay. So, Russell, how are you going to accept with good grace that this is the thing that's happening now? What is it that's going to enable you to find a way to that to permeate inside yourself, head, heart, and gut? And it's you have to get to a place where you are okay with it, or as okay as you can be with it. And then once I have done that, I feel as though once again I got a bit more clarity and can keep moving forward with it, essentially. Yeah, because it's fascinating. It really is.
because acceptance alone has this kind of undercurrent for me of giving in and
Mm.
sitting back
No.
and allowing chaos to ensue and saying, well, you know, I accept it. That's it. I give in. But the acceptance with good grace, it's the opposite of giving in, and it's
Yeah.
focusing on what we can control.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yes, it isn't. It's not a fait accompli. It's not about that of like, right, I'm giving up now. It's most definitely about how can you utilize it ultimately to learn, serve yourself, and grow from it essentially.
So I'm conscious that but there's been a lot of conversation we've had things about like acceptance with good grace, and I'm wondering what led to you choosing resilience? Because you could have been the acceptance coach, the good grace coach, the umpteen other words, insert word here coach, but you chose to become not just a resilience coach, the resilience
Let's
coach.
go.
And
Yes.
what led to that?
So I think so. Feel free to interrupt because there might be sort of a longer answer, but so the resilience coach will be 10 years old in July. So it is intertwined with who am I as a human being, what my purpose is, essentially, which is one of the dimensions of being resilient. And it was my life story to date for up to 10 years ago when the resilience coach was born. So it was a whole combination of things that came together. So the reason, so since I can remember, I've just been really curious about human behavior and about how come we do the things that we do, like behaviorally, essentially. There's just something about the way my mind works is what's this person actually doing behaviorally? Um, and trying to bring that to life for myself. So just utterly fascinated by that, which when I went traveling around the world for a year, many, many years ago, I was teaching in Hong Kong and some magic was happening in the room and I didn't know what the magic was, but I'm going, this is beautiful. I'm getting these little zaps inside myself of like, I'm loving this. This is really enjoyable. What is this? And came away from those sessions and came back to the UK or just after this and going, do you know what? I think it's people learning. When I see a human being have a light bulb moment, a realization moment, an aha moment, or go from confused face to oh, I see what I can do now. That did something to me. That absolutely did something to me inside myself. And I thought, I want to do that for a living. Absolutely. I want to do that for a living. But I knew I didn't want to be a teacher in a school. That just wasn't a mental blueprint that I had. Absolutely, total kudos to all teachers out there, but that's not for me. So when I came back from the UK, I think the job title that I could think is like, I think I want to be a business trainer. That was all I knew it as. I think I want to be a trainer in corporate world. So came back to recruitment agencies and they asked, well, what do you know and what you qualified in around business training? And I went nothing and out. And then from there, got a job in sales, went to night school to do a certificate in training practice whilst doing a job in sales, and then had a career in learning and development and leadership development and organizational development. And my last permanent role was at the Co-op Group in Manchester. And not long after I joined it, uh, significant, huge amounts of change. And all of my internal clients, which was some of the top 300 leadership team, came to me literally with their head in their hands. And literally, the world's full on our heads, Russell. What the hell do we do? And at that time, in the co-op, we had been all investigating this word resilience, and it really struck me around the positive psychology thing around it from that point of view, and this lovely acronym of VUCA, VUCA. That really struck me as well about just how volatile and complex the world is and change is constant. And I literally, to all my clients, I said, well, actually, worry not. All of our solutions about how we're going to face into this enormous challenge are around the word resilience and are around this VUCA acronym, which led to when I left the co-op and set up by myself and doing the navel gazing of who am I, Russell? What's your business USB? I went, you know what? I'm the resilience coach. That's what I've been doing the last few years, and it just all of that story of 1996 in Hong Kong to that moment when I'm the resilience coach, and that feels right to me, and it feels like an identity to me and who I am, and it settles well within me essentially. So that's how it all came about, David.
Thank you, Russell. And I'm curious for me because I'm fascinated by this story as well. So selfishly, I'm going to ask: is and was it all plain sailing from there when you
No,
decided, okay, this is going to be my business name, this is what I'm going to do, presumably buy the domain and decide on the brand and crack on?
no, absolutely not. And it's still not plain sailing. It's never been plain sailing, which is, part of it perpetually all the time about actually how much my role modeling being resilient to run a resilient business. Oh, there are ups and downs and sideways, and lots of things that I can do differently, always learning, always trying to make some challenges and some differences. So yeah, absolutely. There have been times when it's been amazing and really good and really thriving, and you go, right, how do I build upon that? And then we've had pandemics, we've had austerities, we've had economic crashes, we've had me supporting my lovely gorgeous wife at times, and that just all comes into the mix essentially. So no, it's a challenge, it's a struggle. I absolutely still I'm in the place of like how do I want a little conversation with the algorithm, David. Absolutely. I just want to, I'd love to be able to I'd like the algorithm just to sit next to me for a few minutes. And I just want to ask it a few questions around what is it? What do you need? What is it that I need to say or do or need to, for you to just pick that up and go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, there's something there.
Mm.
Um, that's the thing that I'm still like really intrigued by, curious by around what, I just want to chat to the algorithm and see where that takes us.
Thank you, Russell. And part of the reason I enjoy working with you is, speaking with you now, especially, is I find it so refreshing when you speak to someone who's done something for a long time and they've achieved a certain level of success and built a reputation and a brand and a business, and then they're still willing to sit down and say, "There's so much I still don't know. There's so much I've got left to learn, and there's so much that I still find really difficult." And that feels, for me, as someone who's at a much earlier part of the journey, like a permission to take a big sigh of relief and say, "Oh, thank God it's not just me."
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And if anybody else is listening now that's in there, so it is a case of I've found my passion and I've absolutely got a level of success at it. And I suppose the only reason I want to be more successful and tongue in cheek, talk to the algorithm. Uh, I, I so passionately believe in this word resilience and getting out there in this springing forward, learning and thriving and actually facing into life's challenges very differently. Each time I talk about it, it sort of lights fires inside people. When they get it, they go, oh, I fancy a bit of that. And I'm really just more about, Ashley, how do I spread that word? That's a bit about who I'm about as well. Just how do we spread that, what you want, whatever you want to call it, fairy dust, around the world to just go, actually, do you know what? More people need an opportunity to engage with this. And what's the variety of ways in which we can do that, you know? Um, so yeah, so it's a tongue in cheek around the algorithm, but my intent is around actually more people that understand what it truly means to be resilient around the level of helpfulness and hope and optimism there is around it. That's what I get out of bed each day to do.
Mm, thanks, Russell. It certainly lit a fire in me 5 or so years ago when we started working together, and that fire is absolutely roaring now, and
Great.
just dying for more fuel to be put on it. So if someone's listening and thinking, okay, this concept of resilience, I'm interested. I don't think I'm perhaps very good at it. It's perhaps in the position I was in 5 years ago when we first started working together, thinking I feel a bit lost, a bit trapped, a bit stuck, a bit like a victim of all this stuff that's going on around me. It's overwhelming, and I'm feeling distinctly unfulfilled. Um, where would you recommend them starting?
Yeah.
What's the first step?
So right now, the first step is take a moment, either do it with somebody or sit down with a drink of water or a glass of wine or beer or a coffee. Um, and pen and paper or electronic thingamajig and start answering the question of where have I felt proud in my life? Okay, start to do that. And it may take a while for you to come up with an answer. You might have to kick it around for a bit. You might have to just let it cogitate. You might have to keep just asking yourself. And at some point, so it's like when you've been involved in something in your life, you've achieved something. This feeling of pride inside ourselves. It's this warm and fuzzy feeling about, do you know what? Do you know what? I think I did a good thing, or I enjoyed what I was involved in, or I think I made a difference, or I think I added value, or I'm proud of actually how I faced into a challenging situation, you know? So what made you proud, essentially? And start to unpick that. So just think about whole life. And sometimes when people get their first one, sometimes the floodgates open, and they come with a number of different examples. Sometimes we just only come up with a few. But once you've got some things around what makes you proud, the next step is to build upon it and ask yourself the question around. So so a number of different questions. What was my mindset? What was my attitude? What were the behaviors that I was doing? What were the skills and the capabilities and the strengths that I was utilizing in that moment? Okay. And there'll be some connectivity amongst them. So if you've got, 3, 5, 10 examples of feeling proud and you unpick them all, essentially, there'll be some connectivity. If you do a mind map, essentially, or a collage or a list, you'll go, actually, do you know what? There's 5, 6, 10, 12, 3 strengths, skills, capabilities, attitudes it's common amongst them all. And then your purpose will go, okay, so your purpose is to do more of those, essentially. And it's like, oh, so what are the circumstances? What are the situations where I can do that, essentially? And then think about, it's practical then and pragmatic around what's the financials around that. It's some people can actually achieve their purpose on an incredible shoestring, essentially. But it's also, whilst we are not motivated by money, we need it for certain things in a Western world. But we're not motivated by it, which is something that people often have a good conversation about. It sometimes in the car park often turns to like a bun fight. It's like, go, no, we're not motivated by money. I know we need it and you want it, to meet the needs that you've got, but we're not actually motivated by the cash itself, which is sometimes difficult to pick their heads around. We need it essentially for a certain types of life that we want. So understand strengths, skills, capabilities, things that made you proud, and then actually, whoa, so that's what really floats my boat. That's who I am. That's my identity. So I want to do more of that, and that'll start feeding into your purpose.
Wow, thank you, Russell. I firstly want to say, I know for a fact my mother will be listening to this episode with pen and paper in hand and will have been writing down all those questions and answering them. So I look forward to hearing what you've come up with, Mum, and to anyone else as well.
Yeah, this is it. Connect with either or both of us on LinkedIn or email us and sort of say, "Oh, this is what I've come up with." Yeah,
What
great.
do I do now?
Have a look. Yeah, we'll have a look.
But I want to dive in because I know you and because I've worked with you for so long. The bit that interests me of what you said there in particular was you mentioned it several times, this word strengths. So
Yes.
if someone's listening and thinking, well, why is that relevant? And strengths, is it that important? Does it matter? I know for a fact that working on my strengths with you has really mattered and has been
Yeah.
extremely pivotal in all the work that we've done. But would you care to explain, Russell, what you mean by strengths and why they matter?
Yeah, absolutely. So strengths build natural resilience and natural confidence. And once again, one of the dimensions of being resilient is confidence. So it's like a triple whammy to it. Okay. But a strength is something that naturally energizes us. So, yes, when I work with clients, if they want to, and I recommend it, we do a psychometric called Strength Scope. So clever people and I have identified that the 24 strengths exist, and they range from self-improvement to emotional control to empathy to critical thinking to results focused, and we aren't naturally energized by all 24. Get a significant 7 essentially of the 24. And so the trick of life is to understand these things that naturally energize you and to harness them and to understand that when you play to your strengths, that's you at your best, feeling great, thriving, getting the most out of yourself. So the more time you spend doing that, it has an impact upon your confidence, your attitude, your life, your clarity, your purpose, essentially. So you will be role modeling being a resilient individual by playing to your strengths. And one of the things that I always, with the vast majority of my clients, when they look at their particular psychometric and the results that they get, their eyes go to what they perceive to be their low score. Okay.
Mm.
And they go, oh, so I presume, Russell, my homework is to improve this thing that's the lowest. And I go, no, it ain't. Your homework, for want of a better word, is this thing here that's really long, that is you're really great at. Your homework is to do more of that. And so many people just go, my mind is blown. I thought personal development was about working on the small, the negative, the bad. And go, yeah, we'll come to that later. Okay. First things first, really understand what naturally energizes you inside yourself when you don't notice time passing and you're in flow and it's like just brilliant and great. It's like do more of that. And then we put a number of different strategies in place about when you have to do those things where you sort of go, ooh, I'm finding this. I've got no energy for this. This is tough. You go, right. Okay. So we need to put some strategies in place to support you in these moments. And that's the whole strengths based approach. And I've said it a few times, I'll say it again. It builds natural resilience and natural confidence to do that. So this is why I think it is so relevant and important. And the number of clients that I've worked with and businesses that have gone, oh my God, I'm going to completely rejig my whole department. Because it's this idea of like, imagine like on one hand, with my fingers waving around, you've got all the KPIs and the activities and the tasks that your department needs to do. And then you've got all these human beings, essentially. You need to mesh them together so they interconnect really well. So it's literally about actually all this stuff needs doing in our department. Who's excited by any of it? I'm going, oh, well, I'm quite like that. Oh, I quite like that. Oh, I quite like that. Right, you're doing that then. So you've delegated it all to them. You go, what's left? Okay. And how are we just going to do those? Harness our overall strengths to do what's left, essentially. And yeah, there's a number of different heads of department and businesses going, yep, I'm going to redesign my whole department based upon that. It's nuts. It's just simple.
And just to bring this to life for people as well, the live example, a couple of weeks ago, I sent Russell a voice note saying, Russell, I'm really frustrated. This thing has happened. I'm reaching out because I'm really frustrated and wound up, and I've got these ideas and thoughts on it, but please can I consult you for your thoughts and explain to me what the hell's going on and why I feel like this, please, thank you. And Russell, sent me back a voice note saying, well, David, I'm looking at your strength scope report. And straight away, he didn't say, I'm seeing your weaknesses here. He said, I'm seeing the things that you're energized by. And there's these of your significant 7 strengths. I can see at least 3 or 4 of them that are being leveraged. One of which was personal development. It was the reason I was reaching out to you, because I saw it as an opportunity to improve myself. But then several areas of the things that de-energize me
Yes.
were to explain for why I was feeling like I was feeling. And Russell didn't give me the solution and he didn't tell me what to do, but he provided me this awareness where I was able to almost step out of my body, have an out of body experience of, oh my God, that explains why I was feeling like I was feeling, and then pause and reflecting on it, with some time to process what you'd said, because it was so huge to me, this realization, I was able to then say, right, now I understand how I'm feeling. I now know what I can do about it. And I went off and did it, and we met a week later, and I was in a much better position. But from that one voice note and from the way you just interpreted my strength scope report, it explained why I was feeling ready to scream. And I'm sure everyone can relate to how that
Yeah.
feels when you feel stuck, trapped, and backed into a corner, and it's horrid. So thank you, firstly.
Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, and it was clear from your tone of voice on your voice note to go, Russell, I'm struggling. And I go, yeah, I can hear it in you. I said to myself, yeah, I can hear it in your voice, David. So yeah, brilliant. And this is it. That's it in action. Um, and it does it has to be a habit that we get into of like on and in terms of role modeling, springing forward with learning and asking those 3 questions about what have I been doing behaviorally that's been serving me well, what I've been doing behaviorally that's not been serving me well. One of the many things is against the behaviors against which strengths. I've not even, oh gosh, I've been spending all my time doing the thing that I hate doing. Oh, no wonder I feel so, burst bubble, de-energized, upset, bothered, not enjoying myself. Aha, right, okay. How do I turn that around, essentially is yeah, so it's so many different clients that I've done it with when they've suddenly got their strengths report and what it really means to harness them, their whole report, they just sort of go, yeah, just face into life just so differently.
Mm. Exactly, because I don't know about you, Russell, but for me, one of the hardest things in life, one of the worst moments is when I feel off kilter, I feel not quite right, I feel like something's missing and something's wrong, but I can't explain it. And people will say to me, are you all right? You know, loved ones, are you all right? There's something off. And I'll say, you're telling me, but I can't. I can't understand why I feel off. I can't understand why I'm frustrated. What's missing? And it's through working with you. It's through the strength scope, through all the conversations we've had, cultivating more self-awareness and understanding, so I can figure out what the heck is happening, and then I can go off and do something about it. But I can't do anything about it when in the moment I'm just pulling my hair out because something's off.
Yeah, yeah. And this might be a little bit of promotion for both of us as coaches, but it's just like anyone that's listening now, we do have the belief that we can do all of that reflection by ourselves.
Mm.
But I just positive challenge to people that are listening is like, we can't. It's literally in our lifetimes, everybody needs a coach. Now, it might also be a friend, a relative, it might be a line manager, it might be a colleague, but persistently trying to figure this stuff out by yourself, it's like, if you're asking yourself the question, what's the behavior I've been doing recently that's not been serving me well? I've been trying to raise my self-awareness inside my own head, and sometimes by yourself that doesn't work. So one of the dimensions of being resilient is your support network. So reach out to your support network. If you're ever feeling stuck, going, somebody's bothering me, it's not quite right, can't put my finger on it. It's like, go talk to somebody.
Mm.
Here we go. Essentially.
And I would personally recommend, come and talk to myself, come and talk to Russell, reach out to a coach, because for me, it's been a game changer. And I personally say to people, I don't think anybody needs coaching, but I think everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah.
And the skills and the behaviors of coaching, and just someone listening to understand rather than listening to respond,
Yeah.
and giving you that time of day so that you can think out loud and hear yourself speaking. Sometimes in a coaching session, I have to do nothing. I don't have to offer a single observation or question. I just have to hold space for someone to get their thoughts and feelings off their chest and then into their head in a way that they can then process. It's
Yeah.
the power of the conversation.
It is. It is. It is. And we do, yes, and we do that for really different, clients as well, don't we? So there's
Mm.
millions of coaches that are out there. We've all got our USPs. So
It's what
yes.
makes coaching sometimes quite difficult to sell. I'm going to go into my next networking event and say, right, I'm a coach, and often I do absolutely nothing. Give
Mm.
me your money.
Yeah, there you go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Could be a
Like
brave
that, and
approach.
the build might be, and by doing nothing, I listen. And by doing nothing, I ask questions. And by doing nothing, I hold the space. That, yeah, you know.
Hmm. And you do all the thinking, and we find you clarity, courage, purpose, all the things that you're looking for that you've been chasing for some time. We answer them, we find them.
Yeah. It's good. It's
But Rome
amazing.
wasn't built in a day. And we're still building my Rome, aren't we, Russell?
Yeah, we are. We are. We are. And I am so pleased with how it's going for you. I really am. I'm just, yes, it's lovely to be by your side, metaphorically and physically, along the way. It's just like, yeah, it's just a privileged position to be in.
It's been an unbelievable journey, and I always feel like we're only scratching the surface of what it's going to become. And, um, the sky's the limit with coaching.
Isn't it just?
It certainly is. So if anyone's listening and thinking, wow, this Russell guy, he sounds awesome, I shouldn't say if, when, to all of the people who are listening and are thinking exactly that, where can they find you and how can they get in touch, particularly if they're just listening on the audio and they can't see your lovely background?
Yeah, so theresiliencecoach.co.uk is the website. You can get in touch with us through there. And if you put that in, Russell, the resilience coach, into internet, you'll find us on social media, essentially. That's how they can get in touch.
Check out the show notes, and I will be adding in your contact details in there as always so that people can get in touch, and I'll add mine as well. So all that's left to say from me then, Russell, is thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today on the show. I've been very excited for this episode. It's been a while coming, as you are such a busy person, difficult to find a mutually agreeable spot, but we've done it. It's been fantastic, and I would love to have you back on the show again soon, perhaps for season 2 when that kicks off next year.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And yes, thank you to Lynn for listening. It's fascinating to know along the ether from David to me about what you thought about it. But thank you for having me on, David. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Wonderful, Russell. And on that bombshell, we'll leave it there.
The Solo Coach Podcast.